Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Who?
Ms. Duncan.
Yeah, she's here. She's in the next.
Okay. Hang on it. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards. Dr. Marshall.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Perez.
Yep.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Dr. Solano.
Here.
Mr. Stavros.
Here.
Mr. Temple.
Here.
Mr. Tripp.
Here.
Dr. Zachariah.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Because we have to stop and do something else shortly, I'd like to get started and just kind of move through the agenda in the most efficient way. So I am going to dispense with my normal report, and I'm just going to begin with part of what we were going to do at that time. At this time, last month, as you know, FSU completed its search. Its Board of Trustees successfully completed its search for a new president. And they have named a very talented and well-published and incredibly good academic scientist in Dr. Eric Barron, and we're all very excited about it. He comes to us with a wonderful background and a great, with good fundraising skills and great academic credentials. So we're looking forward to his contribution at FSU. And he's also an FSU graduate to boot, and that, of course, makes him very special in my world. And so we want to welcome Dr. Barron here, and I know we're looking forward to working with him as part of the university system. Some of us had an opportunity to meet him last evening and just get to know him a little bit. But as part of our ongoing role here, I'd like to now ask Dr. Larry Abel if he would come forward to the podium and kind of describe the FSU presidential search, as just briefly enough that we get the steps.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. The process took approximately 6 months. It was chaired by the chair of our trustees, Jim Smith. It began in July with the hiring of John Hicks of Academic Search as our outside consultants. In July, a 19-member search committee was named that had representatives from undergraduate students, graduate students, staff, faculty, alums, and others. A website was set up with qualifications and other material posted there, and I would say an open website for comments and nominations that we probably had on the order of 600 to 700 individuals make recommendations or comments on this open site. The chair, Jim Smith, sent out almost weekly updates on how the search was going. The consultant met with dozens of individuals around the country, and then after about 5 months, the committee met and reviewed about 25 candidates that they felt they wanted to look at, narrowed that down to 3 candidates, invited them to campus in early December. At the end of those visits, they made a recommendation to the trustees that they bring Dr. Eric Barron back for another visit, and fortunately for all of us, then at that time asked him to serve as our president. So it was a very well-represented search group. It was open, tons of communication with the media, the faculty and staff and general public, and I think it went very, very well.
Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Abel about the process? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce the chair of FSU's Board of Trustees and wonderful public service servant who's held all manner of, he probably ties with Brogan here with how many jobs he's had, and our former Attorney General and all kinds of things, and he's been a friend of mine for 40-some years. I hate to even say that out loud. But I'm very pleased to have introduce Jim Smith to introduce Dr. Barron. However you'd like. Yeah, it's probably better because of the mic.
Thank you. It's great to see a lot of old friends, and I can assure you that since Chancellor Brogan's a lot younger than I am, whatever record I may hold, he's got a lot of time to surpass it. But I am certain, as all of you get to know Dr. Barron, you will feel, as we do at Florida State, that we were able to hit a home run. He's going to be a great president, and we look forward to him serving as the 14th president of Florida State University. Dr. Barron earned a bachelor's degree in geology from FSU as an honors student in 1973. He holds master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Miami, both in oceanography. Most recently, he's been director of the National Center for Atmospheric Research. Prior to taking that position, Dr. Barron was dean of the Jackson School of Geosciences at the University of Texas at Austin. From 1986 to 2006, Dr. Barron was at Pennsylvania State University, where he was a professor of geosciences, director of the Earth Science System Science Center, director of the EMS Environmental Institute, and finally dean of the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. Dr. Barron is a fellow in the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the American Geophysical Union, the American Meteorological Society, and the Geological Society of America, to name just a few honors. He has received many national awards as a scholar, researcher, distinguished lecturer, and has published extensively and has been editor or a member of the editorial boards of a dozen academic journals. His national prominence in his fields, his extensive fundraising experience, and his superlative administrative skills are an excellent fit for Florida State University. Under T.K. Weatherall's leadership, FSU advanced as one of the nation's top public graduate research universities. Now the university is well positioned to vault to the next level, and we're pleased that Dr. Barron is a leader who will take us there. And as we went through this search, and I've spent time in California talking to people, in Texas, and lived at the Atlanta airport for, it seemed like ever, interviewing people, it struck me how academic people around the country feel about Florida State University and recognize the strong academic programs that we have at Florida State. And frankly, I think FSU is better thought of in many circles outside of Florida than sometimes it is in Florida. But we are delighted that Dr. Barron is going to be our next president, and he'll be a great one. Dr. Barron?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a few brief remarks. One, I truly believe in public education. I don't think I've left some part of the academic world or education world since I was 5 years old, and my commitment has done nothing but grow. There's no doubt, I think, history tells us over and over again that universities are one of the central parts of innovation in this country and the world. And we know innovation drives economies, and we know innovation drives societal well-being. I also believe that what we're involved in is a moral obligation to our citizens, especially our young citizens, to help make sure that they succeed. Of course, we're beset by problems these days. I'm not sure there's been any time in U.S. history in which it isn't more clear that the investment in our future, and in my view that means an investment in education, is more discretionary than commitment. And this describes special problems for us, especially if you combine it with the fact of what investments are like and the fact that we have to make sure that we provide an affordable education to our students. If you're a meteorologist, you would call this a perfect storm. in some ways for the university environment. So we really have a tremendous task ahead, and I believe quite clearly that the only way we're going to succeed is if we all work together to make this a success. And I also think that one of the great pleasures of sitting around a table like this is the opportunity to learn from each other and how other institutions do things so that we can improve our own institutions. So valuing that opportunity to learn is certainly an important benefit of interactions like this. At the same time, we need to enable sufficient independence of our institutions to be able to promote that innovation and creativity that ensures all of our vitality. I think this is quite a job, really, when you think about that level of balance. I just want you to know in thinking about that job that I intend to be a full partner in supporting the success of Florida higher education, and at the same time, of course, working hard to promote the success of FSU. So I really appreciate the very warm welcome that you have provided with me, and I look forward to the opportunity of hosting the board in Tallahassee at your next meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Barron, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, and I know that you'll find your colleagues stimulating, helpful, and welcoming as well. I'd like at this time to have a motion to accept Dr. Abel's report on the search process and to welcome Dr. Barron to the system. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So many as favor the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Adopted unanimously. Could have been anonymously. Thank you. Sorry. Brilliant slip, yes. Following on the heels of this, I'd like to just take a minute, and we would be remiss if we did not turn to thank the current president, or T.K. Wetherill, who will end his term at the end of this month. And he has been a delightful challenge for all of us, but a real contributor as both a public servant and as a university president. And he's done a great deal to move the cause of FSU in the state. And I know, and I would like to say the same for Jim as chair, providing the leadership at FSU for these last several years, and we're very grateful for both of them. I believe that we have a resolution that I would like to move and adopt, thanking and recognizing President Wetherill, and I would ask Jim if you would take it and deliver it to him. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any further any discussion? So many as favor the motion say aye. Aye. The resolution then is adopted, and we did all sign it yesterday, and we wish him well and hope that at our next meeting in Tallahassee we will be able to have a recognition reception to recognize TK and to show our appreciation of all that he's done. So thank you all very much. Having gone through these two items, I think we'll move to approval of the minutes for the board meetings of September 24th and November 12th, and the telephone conference calls of October 22nd and December 10th, and of the Board of Governors Foundation of December 10th, 2009. All of these minutes were provided to you in your packet. Is there a motion to adopt them as a whole? Are there any corrections, modifications, additions? Okay, hearing none, so many as favor of the motions say aye. Aye. Opposed? Like sign. Okay, show all of those minutes approved. We're going to skip now and go right to the consent agenda. We've got some board regulations. Who is going to present those? Okay, these regulations, okay, these were just repealed, and we did take them up and discuss them in December, so we just need to go to final approval. There have been no comments in the interim. So is there a motion to repeal? I guess I should get on the record that they deal with the system general personnel policy and the Florida Solar Energy Center. They've been reconfigured in other regulations. So there's been a motion and a second. Any objection? Hearing none, show them adopted. Okay, the next items are committee reports. We're going to skip the budget and finance and facilities and go right to Governor Duncan, Student Affairs. We'll do them in last.
Okay, good afternoon. We had two main topics of discussion yesterday, and first and foremost, I want to start with, we did not propose a resolution to end all happy hour yesterday. That was the lead story on the news last night. So in the story they said, well, that's not really what they did, but we had a really good conversation and have moved the ball forward on trying to address the excessive alcohol issue on all of our campuses. And thanks to Chancellor Brogan, we have been working hard on, because it's a complicated issue, it is not one size fits all. The solution that may be appropriate for Gainesville may not be appropriate for Miami. There's just a lot of different issues, a lot of different complexities to this, and a lot of different stakeholders at the table. And so while we have drafted some potential legislation that we think could be a good start to this, that would provide for a local option of municipalities on how they may deal with these excessive drink specials. We did not pass the resolution because we want to set up a stronger coalition of the stakeholders. And Chancellor Brogan was able to talk with the Liquor Lobby and the Restaurant Association. I've had conversations with the League of Cities. The staff has talked with the Florida Association of Counties. And we've had great conversation and input with Governor Barnes and the Student Association. And so we are really, the next step is to bring everybody together to talk about it, come up with some solutions. We think there may even be some better ideas that can advance the ball further and to move forward on this very important issue. Chancellor, I don't know if you want to add.
Just to repeat what I said yesterday to those who were here, and you said it very well, Governor. This has been a coordinated effort. The good news is that this issue is teed up by virtue of the work that the committee has done, the attentions that it has gotten from student government, from the Board of Governors, from the institutions. We are finding a great response out there on behalf of all of the associations and local governments. I think our job now is to see how we can organize that into an effective operational opportunity on this issue. And that's what we're going to be working to do. But I've been very pleased with the calls I've gotten, the discussions that I've had on behalf of this issue, as you mentioned, and we'll do our best to tie that all together.
Great. Thank you. The other issue we had an update on was the student health insurance issue, another complicated and challenging issue. We've had a task force, actually this is the second task force, I believe, that has been working on this issue, and they are going to be presenting at our March meeting, which has nothing else going on, best I can tell. And we really are trying to look through, and kind of consistent with our discussions on efficiency, shared services, leveraging this, the purchasing power of our system. That is a big focus of what we're looking at now, which is how can we, for the policies that each institution is buying, maybe get greater purchasing power, reduce the cost for our students, still find ways to find this important coverage, and continue to explore different alternatives to tackle this issue. So really, it's a more to come. It was just an update that this is part of what we'll be hearing about more in March. And I believe that concludes it.
And you had no action items?
No.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor Duncan. Does anybody have any questions?
Or do we need to?
Yes.
I know. I'm going to make it brief. I just wanted to thank Chair Duncan for all of her hard work, and specifically with the drink specials and getting rid of happy hour yesterday, as she touched on. I think that it's been a serious issue that a lot of us realize has gotten out of control in some situations. And I think that the board's decision to not move immediately, but to make sure that all of our everything is intact is going to be most successful for all of the students involved. And I specifically want to thank Dr. Ehas. I know we have tons of people involved in all these projects, but Dr. Ehas has been so passionate, and she's done such a great job of listening to student feedback, even when it wasn't necessarily what she wanted to hear. She's really the epitome of an administrator who's doing her best to serve the students. So I just wanted to, right here on the record, thank her for that, and know that as we move forward with this process, we're going to see some great results.
And actually, Madam Chair, one other just brief thing to add. Dr. Patricia Tellis-Irvin at UF has been the chair of the VPs for Student Affairs for a number of years and has done a great job of trying to coordinate this group and bring our issues together. She has also just been an amazing advocate for this issue. But Dr. Ehas is now her successor and will be the one coordinating that with the system, and so we are also very much looking forward to working directly with her as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back and take up the report of the Facilities and Real Estate Committee. Governor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are several items that we actually have as action items coming out of our committee. I want to thank the members of the committee and the members of the board who were present as we addressed the items on yesterday. The first issue that we're going to present for approval that did come out of our committee is the 2010-2011 fixed capital outlay legislative budget request. That was our very first item, and unless there are any, I guess the only thing I'd like to state for the record is that we are happy that we did get more money in the first year, that we don't have as much money in our second and third and our out years, but we are happy that we did get money there, that we are able to finish up or put more money into ongoing projects and to ensure that our maintenance, which is a big deal for us, is being cared for at our universities. So with that, I entertain a motion to approve.
That's right. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the amended fixed capital outlay budget request. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. So many in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second item is to authorize the release of funds from the University Concurrency Trust Fund in accordance with the Campus Development Agreement between the Florida Atlantic University Board of Trustees and the town of Davie.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any objection? Show it adopted.
The third item I'd ask for those of you who were present for our conversations or discussions, you're aware of the change. For those of you who were not, in your green folder we actually provided a document for you. On the front of it, it says that it is the agenda and handouts for the Facilities and Real Estate Committee. And if you look at that document, included in there is the actual resolution that was proposed for adoption for the facility there at FAU. And again, we're talking about the approval authorizing the issuance of the Florida Atlantic University Financing Corporation of debt to finance the construction of a student residence facility at Boca Raton campus. I'd like to direct your attention to page 2 of the proposed resolution in the packet, which we are looking at item number 1F. And I want to indicate for the record that we are certainly presenting a resolution for adoption with this one change. And in item 1F, it should now read, after appropriate review and analysis, the Board of Governors determines that the facilities being forwarded or being financed, including other capital infrastructure such as water, sewer, road, and electric utility improvements related to Innovation Village, which are being financed with a portion of the proceeds of the debt, are functionally related to the housing revenues being used to secure such debt. So we're removing the language university proposed football stadium and from item number F. With that one change, I'd like to present this item for adoption as directed.
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I do, if it's appropriate, just want to make clear for the record that we're supporting the motion with the amendment to 1F to indicate a couple of things. Number one, that the total amount of funds can be raised. Number two, that none of those funds can be used for the football stadium itself until such time as it comes back to the board to be considered. Number three, that we expect it will come back to the board to be considered. And number four, by moving this forward, we are in no way saying no to the stadium or saying yes to the stadium, but rather it's not on the agenda, it's not something we've talked about, and that we understand we'll have to consider that at a different time.
Thank you very much. There is one, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. There is one item I guess I would like to add to the comment from Governor Perez, is that we understand that some of the dollars may be used for the infrastructure for Innovation Village, and that certainly is part of the Innovation Village. The stadium is a part of that, but we certainly are not approving or adopting the approval of the stadium at this point. Thank you, Ann.
And I don't recall who from FAU was in the room yesterday, but we had a very lengthy discussion on this. Your attorney was there, but do you all have any questions, or have you been briefed about what the issue was?
Yes, and we concur with what Governor Perez just indicated.
Okay, all right, because it was just a technical issue. Yes.
And maybe it's for after the motion, but just, I do think it would be good, as Governor Perez mentioned yesterday, that we, going forward, kind of clarify this issue a little more so that we don't have the same situation happen again, because there will be more coming.
Right, because, and yes, we were desperately trying not to establish a precedent that could open quite a door. And so anyway, that all being said, are there any further comments? Okay, so many as favor the motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the bond issue, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, show it adopted unanimously.
Madam Chair, the only other two items I would like to bring to the attention of the board from our conversations on yesterday is that, again, we've talked a lot about Cortellis. Again, we are just want to be vigilant on whatever we can do to ensure that Cortellis is funded, and hope that we can work with our universities and trying to push that matter forward, because we certainly see it's just dollars that are just sitting and waiting, and that we are losing the opportunity to leverage money that we have available. And then also, I guess, as a follow-up to the conversation about the functionality or functionally related tests, I'm going to ask if I want to direct Chris, so that at our next facilities committee that we can have some ideas about how we can put together the guidelines as directed by Governor Perez and Governor Duncan, so that when this does come up again, we're pretty clear on how we're going to deal with the functionally related tests as required by statute when dealing with the bond issues. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I can just insert here as well, if you recall yesterday, too, during one of the committees, we talked about potential legislation that was adopted by committee that we'll be talking about later regarding the issue of public-private partnerships. And that obviously creates new opportunities that perhaps don't exist today, and drives up the importance and urgency of creating an approach to this that won't see us back. Won't see the board back in that position again with additional requests that we might get as a result of a change in statute in that regard.
Well, then both those statutory provisions ought to be looked at in concert then, because it would change your test. If
for staff to review
yes.
the test on both levels. Absolutely.
Okay, moving right along, our next item is the Audit and Compliance Committee, and Governor Tripp advises me that there was a meeting, but there were no action items, so he's foregoing his report. Next item, I would like to call on Governor Martin to give us the report of the Strategic Planning and Academic and System Oversight Committee.
Madam Chair, there are 4 items that we're bringing to the full board today. The first item is approval of the State University System 2009 annual report. We had a presentation this morning from staff going through the report. Everyone has received a copy of it, Volume 1. There was a link to Volume 2. It's had a lot of detail and background. This will be finalized and passed on to the Governor, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House by February 1st, which is Monday. Would like to commend staff. They've done a tremendous job over the last several months in putting a document together, along with the cooperation that we have received from all the universities. It is a very, very good document and lays a foundation for us really showing the accountability measures and the various things that the university system is doing. So with that, I would move adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, so many as favor adoption, approval of the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I just want to comment, I thought that this first effort on this annual report, given the shortness of time, was an excellent effort. and that there's a lot of data there, and that this is our first step in trying to consolidate all of these reporting requirements that the legislature and the federal government requests that we do and put them all in one place. And the legislature has indicated to me and to the chancellor and others that they're very amenable to consolidating all this reporting and allowing us to have one reporting time, hopefully in February, which is most optimum for us getting the all of the data together and have it meaningful for someone for the next year. So, next year it won't be as painful to do as it was this year, but we'll have a lot more data that we will be collecting and putting in. It'll be more robust. But I think everybody did a wonderful job. Thank you so much to the universities, to the staff, to all the members of this board, and primarily I want to give kudos to Dr. Minear, considering she's been working on this for I don't know how many years, and we've called it I don't know how many names, but we finally have settled on work plan and annual report, and I think that it's going to work out just fine because it's part of our whole accountability program, and I think that's exactly what we need to do. So thank you. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting, Governor Martin. Next.
No problem. The second item is an approval request for limited access status for a Bachelor of Science degree in Sustainability and the Built Environment at the University of Florida. You're probably asking the question, why are we approving it since it's a Bachelor of Science program? But we are doing it because of the limited access status provision. So with that, I would move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there any objection? Hearing none, show it adopted.
The third item, final approval on 3 regulations that have been previously noticed. I'd like to take these all in the group. The first one, Regulation 6.002, admission of undergraduate first time in college degree-seeking freshmen. The second regulation, Regulation 6004, transfer students undergraduate. And the third, repeal Regulation 6005, acceptance of college credit by examination. Move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. There's been no comments received during the interim. Is there any discussion or objection here? Hearing none, show it adopted.
The last item is the approval of notice of intent to amend Board Regulation 7005, residency for tuition purposes. Move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this proposed regulation? This has been vetted with all the institutions. Is that correct, Governor Martin?
Yes.
Okay, so all comments have been received and included. Since there's no discussion, is there any objection? Hearing none, show it adopted. Okay, does that conclude your report,
that concludes
Governor
my report.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to now move and call on Governor Zachariah to report on the status of a vacancy, trustee vacancy at University of West Florida.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. After the Trustee Nominating Committee completed the appointment of 21 new university trustees last October, one of the trustees selected by the University of West Florida submitted a letter of resignation. We need to open a new search to fill the vacancy. We will open the search this coming Monday, February 1st, for 30 days, as required by the Trustee Selection Committee, ending the close of business day, March 2nd, 2010. I will then ask the team of University of West Florida Governors Ann Duncan and Norm Tripp to work with our corporate secretary from Wellesley to review the application and bring back their recommendation for review of the committee. We'll do this as quickly as possible. That's the number report.
Okay, I appreciate that, and so we know the drill now, and everybody's familiar with the process, so that will move along, I'm sure, without any event. We're now going to go back and ask the Chancellor to give his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Several items. First of all, everybody here is obviously well familiar with the tragedy that continues to play out in the nation of Haiti. It's a remarkable set of circumstances. I think it's difficult for most people to even consider. I wanted you all to know that immediately after the initial quake, we pulled together a conference call of our state university personnel as well as private institutions from around Florida to see if we could begin to coordinate an effort of response on behalf of higher education. As most people know, having sadly watched their share of epic tragedies unfold both in our country and around the world, people have begun to recognize that instantaneous response without an appropriate organizational approach to it can actually create more harm than good. People's rush naturally and desire to help, if not well conceived, can actually become an impediment to recovery and rescue. So we knew that our 11 universities, we knew that other higher education institutions would be understandably compelled to want to help. And by the way, are equipped to do so in most instances. So we began an effort with our universities to try to coordinate a response. We asked of them first and foremost to acknowledge the fact that the federal government, through our Department of Health, had indicated to us that this would be a federal response and needed to be coordinated by the federal government so that there would be a centralized conduit for assistance. We ask our institutions to first and foremost inventory the resources that they might bring to bear. For example, we had Dr. Rock at Florida International University stepped up and suggested a coordinated effort on the part of our medical schools and our faculty and students in those medical schools as perhaps a front line of opportunity that we might provide by way of medical assistance. We also know we have nursing programs and counseling programs, not to mention the monetary resources that could be generated through 11 universities with over 300,000 students, John, that might be able to assist. The response was overwhelming. We continue to work to that end. We have been called upon in several instances. I know, for example, Dr. Matchin, I think we have folks from the University of Florida who have been called upon to go to Haiti. Florida International University, I believe, has been called upon, and again, maybe the presidents or provosts can help me, but again, the state university system is providing assistance in a variety of ways, both in country and also here by way of resource collection, et cetera. So I can't say enough about everybody's response, their patience to make sure that we did this in an orchestrated way, but clearly the outpouring is remarkable. Not new to us. Those of us who have been around a while remember Hurricane Katrina and the way the state university system, Madam Chair, coordinated an effort to assist after Katrina, not only sending people to New Orleans to help physically, but also, if you recall, we took in quite a number of students, and we set some regulations, rules, and policies aside to bring those orphaned students from the number of universities in that area that were closed to our universities for a brief period of time until they could reacclimate. So it is always wonderful to see a system that recognizes that when called upon, it can rise to the occasion. And I thank everyone out there in our universities for being so supportive of that effort. Second is a brief comment again on the issue of differential tuition. We're all assembled today, so I'll do a shorter version of what I said yesterday, and the board, I think, concurs. It is important because this is the first full time through the process of differential tuition under the new statutory provisions that we all begin the conversation about tuition now. Some of you already have, I know, you've told me that, but begin those conversations at the universities, begin the dialogue with the board office, because it is important that we all familiarize ourselves with the statutory language and begin the dialogue early so that we don't get caught short in the spring when it's time to begin to finalize budgets. I know that Governor Barnes and I have talked about this at great length and feel strongly, as do I, and I think we all do, that the interface with student populations, since they are the payers of tuition, is important always. Never has it been more important, based on the differential tuition bill and our new statutory requirements, to begin those conversations as early as possible and make certain that they are ongoing as this thing evolves. The House and Senate, of course, has the ability to set a base tuition, so some might naturally say, well, how can we have any meaningful dialogue until we know what the House and Senate will propose? My response is the House and Senate may propose an increase, they may not. And so I would work under the predicate that from 0 to 15 is what each university needs to look to in the event that the Florida legislature decides not to pass any increase in tuition this year. So you can begin and should begin those conversations right away. And again, don't limit it to yourself. Please begin with us to interface with us on those conversations, because at the end of the day, as the governor mentioned yesterday, this process crescendos in the spring with recommendations coming forward to the Board of Governors regarding each institution and their request to set a tuition rate. So we stand ready, willing, and able to begin those dialogues with you today. And again, I'm being redundant, and perhaps it is overkill, but this is the first time we've done this. And so we want to make sure that we get it right, even though that it's the first time. Lastly is the issue of census. It is that time. The federal government, as you might imagine, is very strongly emphasizing the importance of the census that we're about to go through as a nation. And as we have done in the past, the state university system has been asked and given the opportunity to participate in the census process through programs of awareness and education and emphasis to see to it, for example, that parents remember that they have a student away at college when they're filling out the census report. Sometimes it is appropriate to forget them. We don't want that to happen. I know that John Barnes has been involved in this effort, and of course some of our staff have been involved in this effort, Diane McCain most notably, working on this project. So we think that the universities have a very good opportunity and also an obligation to become involved in this process. Remember, very important decisions are made as a result of the count. Last time, I think we picked up 2 seats in Congress after the last census. Dollar flow is oftentimes adjusted based on population and demography. So it really is important that to the greatest degree possible, Florida get this one right, and our institutions of higher education have an opportunity and, again, perhaps an obligation to become involved in this to make sure that Florida gets it right. So you'll be hearing more about all of that in the months to come, but we thank those, I mentioned John and Diane, those who have become really involved, and ultimately each university will have people who will be dedicated in part to this effort to make sure that we have a coordinated effort and that we do the best we can to help Florida get it right as it relates to the census. With that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you unless there are any questions from presidents or board members.
Thank you. We've really kind of sped through this agenda because we didn't want to get off track due to our need to recess here until the governor. I'm going to hold my remarks and action on the Budget Committee report, which contains the LBR, until after the press conference with the governor. But we do have a few minutes before we actually have to break, so I would just like to ask people around the table if there's anything as we lead into the legislative session that they would like to engage about while we have a few minutes. I mean, we find ourselves rarely in this situation, and I know I'm probably opening the door to all manner of things I shouldn't, but I guess I can take it if there's mischief to be had. Governor Edwards.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say, as we recognize the new incoming and outgoing president of Florida State, that we also recognize Dr. Abel, who has been leader for all of our provosts. I've always referred to him as the third president in the room from Florida State. Of course, Dr. Marshall is the first, TK was the second, and Larry's been with all of them, but he has certainly been a great help to this board. He's been a great friend of mine, and I know everybody else is here. And I'm not sure the long-range plans of Larry. He certainly has earned the right to go out to pasture and enjoy life. Hopefully he'll stay around for a while. But I just, for the good of the order of remarks, would like to recognize Larry.
Dr. Barron.
Anything that looks like or sounds like a goodbye message, because I would like to keep him around for as long as I can.
Well, I concur, Governor Edwards. Larry has been the stalwart and is really recognized nationally as an outstanding provost. So we're very lucky to have him in our system, along with all of the other wonderful provosts that we have. Where are you, Larry? Oh, stand up. He went out to pasture. Thank you for your service. Yes, Governor Duncan.
Slightly less exciting and more pragmatic mode. Do we have any plans to have conference calls during the session or with committee meetings? I mean, what is the thinking on that?
May I?
Yes.
The answer to that is yes. We've been working with Rick Maxey and the institutions. We want to put together a bill tracking process that you'll be proud of, that will, to the greatest degree possible, virtually keep you up to date on a day-to-day basis in how fluid that process is and how things can change. And then we want to put together a system approach to making sure that we update you with conference calls and the like throughout that entire process as well. So we will be coming to you very soon with our plan for trying to do this in a way that will make sure your time is used efficiently, but that we make our best case in the legislative process effectively.
Chancellor, on that note, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, so if it's inappropriate, just say so, but can maybe Commissioner and you give a little bit of an update on the joint meeting that we had and what's transpired since that time?
Sure. We have had multiple meetings since the joint meeting.
Well, just remind, for everybody's in the room,
yep.
Remind that we had a meeting and when it was.
We did. We had a most historic meeting. It was the first time in their existence that the State Board of Education and the Board of Governors met at the same time for purposes of discussing better interface going forward. We met down in Palm Beach. We met at Scripps Institute, and the Council of 100 was there and helped coordinate the effort. But the two boards actually had a chance to interface and gave some fairly clear direction to Commissioner Smith and I, and that was that the next time they met together, which should be March of this same year, we've kind of organized it that way so that we can be present in Tallahassee during the legislative session and also have a repeat joint meeting. So the State Board is coordinating their meeting at that time. We are, of course, scheduled to meet at that time, and we'll therefore jointly meet again. In between time, we have met with Chair McDevitt and Chair T. Willard Fair, who's the chair of the State Board of Education, to kind of get our arms around how we should approach this thing. And we have begun to coordinate a couple of working groups internally. One is a working group that will work with the workforce development people and others, as well as the universities, to take, and the Florida college system, to take a serious look at the need going forward of Florida. What should we be producing in Florida, and what's the most efficient way to do that? Where do we need degrees, in what area, access issues, and the like, so we can come up with a general need-based roadmap for where Florida ought to be heading in the years to come in their higher education system. And that, by the way, includes both Florida college system, state university system, as well as the independent, private, and proprietary schools who are out there doing thousands of degrees on their own. The second work group would be just that. How can we take the systems that already exist and create a construct that will allow us to better and more efficiently dovetail the work of all of those various delivery systems to meet that need, to make sure that we're not stepping on one another, and to make sure that we're planning best we can together so that we do this in an orchestrated way. And we hope that by the time we meet in March, we'll have a great deal more to share with you all as Board of Governor members, as State Board members, to the end on both of those things. Commissioner, I don't know if I've left anything out or you wanted to add anything.
Summarize it very, very well, but I'd say that the joint meeting was outstanding, I think, and the meeting of the two chairs, I think, was extraordinarily productive. We have had significant work groups since that point, as you outlined. I think that what Florida has to look forward to going forward is ultimately a connection between post-secondary education, baccalaureate, and degree production, and that connection with the economic future of Florida and our the business landscape going forward. So being able to pull those together so that there's a common understanding of the need and the future direction of the state, I think is very, very positive. So we stand very, very encouraged by what's transpired to this point. Look forward to the next joint meeting and the subsequent work after that. So it should be good.
Well, thank you all very much for the work that you've been doing, and what we were going for, at least from my perspective, was that connection, the collaboration, and the ability to plan going forward for the benefit of all of the systems or delivery systems for higher education in the state. And it's very important that we all get on the same page about what's needed to be able to enhance the economic viability of the state, because all the research shows, of course, that the better educated your population is, the better your economy is, and that's what we're really, among other things, trying to do. So thank you all very much for what you do. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the table?
Could I give them a quick housekeeping chore on where we go from here?
Sure.
Just to let you know, I'm told
maybe 15 minutes early, so we'd be back
Okay.
that it is our intention to begin with the governor right around 1:30. It may be actually a little earlier, as I just heard in my ear. So once we break here in just a few moments, don't wander far, especially if you are a member of the Board of Governors, BOT representatives, presidents of universities, or presidents of student government, if you'll stay close, because we're going to pull all of you together for just a couple of moments prior to the governor's press conference. So please feel free to relax for the time we have remaining, but please be attuned if you're in one of those categories to hearing someone yell, "We need you over here."
At 1 o'clock, we'd like those people to go to the second floor to the library boardroom. Presidents of universities, Board of Governors members, Board of Trustee chairs, and the speakers, and the only speakers not in those categories are not in the room either, so we'll find them. And with that, I'd like a motion to recess, to return at the conclusion of the press conference to complete our meeting. Second.
And if the folks, Madam Chair, if the folks at the head of the table would collect up their things, you're going to do all that?
All right, we're in recess.
Yeah, got it.